Good evening, and welcome back again to the iHealth channel and listening on iHealth Radio. This is Hurricane Age, and welcome to another Sales World talk show series. And today we're going to be talking about, sales strategy. We've covered a lot of sales aspects, selling process from inception, from pre-marketing, from pre-setting, from pre-fabbing, all the stuff that is done before an actual presentation, through a presentation, and the different things to get you to close and what happens next. And then today we'll just talk more in terms of sales strategy and strategic thinking about how to put together a plan. And this is more for if you're an agent, that's great. If you're independent, this can help you. But this is going beyond that, so it's more for sales leaders. And as you're planning your strategy for the next few months, the next year, this will be a little bit of an outline, an overview of what can be done exactly and how to do it, and the different things to think about and consider while you're planning your sales planning, for the whole year. And sometimes in the Medicare sales world, I mean, we're talking about a year in advance, literally, when you plan all these things. And so anybody, manager, director, and above, you'll probably be involved in these types of discussion. As you go further up, the ladder, you're probably going to be, it from a decision making, from a planning phase, from an implementation, and putting all that stuff together. But before we get, into the core of our benefit, presentation here, a sales strategy presentation here, what I want to discuss is just the topic of the hour. Again, hope everybody out there is healthy and safe, and they all keeping their social distancing, active. Minimize your contact. It is the best way. There is no other measure. It's really prevention right now, and keeping away is the best. The things have changed a little bit. Looks like there's a little bit of a bright light today in terms of New York, at least. Where there's a stoppage, or at least a lesser debt ratio, so or debt toll compared to the days before. So thank God for that. And again, for anyone that I know, anyone I don't know, if you're watching this, stay safe at home, anywhere you are around the world. This is not just in the U.S., this is everywhere. So please, just take care of yourself, build the immune system, keep your exercise going. It is important, to keep your physical aspect, and it helps with your mental state as well. Do some entertaining stuff. Again, I mentioned this before. Please, exercise a lot. It does a whole different thing for your body. Again, I'm not going to talk about nutrition. Again, that's important. We need to have a good, healthy, mixed, balanced nutrition. Your veggies, your fruits, the whole thing. This is not a pitch about diet today, but definitely as you exercise, it's important to keep your immune boosted, your antioxidant, all that stuff going on. You also, we're all kind of like in a jail status here. Everybody's limited to their spaces, and they get in a little bit of a cabin fever. So if you are getting there, of course, you can watch all the movies you want. Try to watch something comedy, fun, action, nothing depressing. Just a little bit of a tip here. If you have an opportunity to exercise in your house, do. It doesn't take much. You can just do some basic exercises in your space, your room, your living room, doesn't matter. Or you can also watch, there's plenty of videos out there. We do actually have a program on our channel here every day, Monday to Friday, and it's also on the replays. You can watch it on our website, so www.theihealthchannel.com. Again, the purpose for it is really just to keep people motivated and stuff, and keeping a little bit of, just breaking a sweat, getting a little bit of a momentum, and interacting. So that being said, we go deep dive into the sales, world again, and what does it take to actually prepare for your sales strategy? And so there's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of ways you can actually approach a sales strategy as a whole. And some of the leadership, sales leadership, and even general operational leadership in all the different companies, and specifically in helpline structures, there's a lot of sessions and meetings that take place, and their sole purpose is to actually plan for the year to come. So for example, we're in 2020, everybody's working 2021. If everything with coronavirus moves along, and we get back to normal, 2021 will be here, so there's the annual election period, and we'll talk about that in different talk show series. But when that happens, we have to be prepared for it. So if you're anywhere managing, directing, VPN or beyond, this is actually a crucial time. This is also the time where benefits are being designed. This is also the time where your budget would have probably been already approved, and that's all then. But you also have to look at your previous performance. You look at your analysis in terms of competition, and see like what that looks like. So you maybe one of the common things that people do is SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your threats, and your opportunities. That's one way to look at SWOT. I have another SWOT, and we'll talk about it, which is, how to actually, execute on the sales, and that's special work and tactics. Acronym. It's a little bit of a different acronym, but, just a little spin. But the idea is really, so you want to know all that stuff in advance. You also want to plan based on your budget. So whatever that budget is, you want to look at, what that staffing ratios will look like. You want to make sure you have a good, healthy mix between your distribution channels. And those will be your, main, feeds, in terms of business. Where you're going to get your business, who's going to get it for you, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and what that consists of. And you want to also talk, about, your budget in terms of marketing. And if you are not in charge of marketing, you're not actually directly impacting marketing, you're working with marketing, so you need to actually get together, meeting of the minds, work together in terms of like what that strategy is going to look like, and have it, all prepped and ready, because everything has to be, in advance, rehearsed in a way, and put in a very synchronized time, because every month you do need to have a certain portion of things depending on the season, depending on what kind of election period there is. So, for example, now it's the it's the special election period. So basically, it's only certain people that can actually move, from plan to plan and switch in, and the others in the Medicare world will be locked into plans unless they are actually ICEPs or just initial, election period type, where they just move into the Medicare and just turn in 65. So we're not talking about those details, but we're talking just as a whole. So you're pre-planning, you're looking at your budgets to make sure that you're staffing. And if anything, you would have already at this point have already structured your budget and looked at your numbers, where your goal is going to be based on the board's, direction, and senior leadership. They might have an actual target for the year where they want to be in terms of numbers, and you take that, you back it in terms of your staffing model, and you break it down in terms of which distribution channel is going to have what percentage of that, and which one you can control better, and which one you will actually definitely guarantee that you're going to get the results from. So again, we'll just hit right now on it. So that's basically, for me, the distribution channels in our world are, your telesales, so everything call center driven, so calls coming in. And that's your team that is actually on the phone manning and getting the action going. And then you have your field sales, captive, force, which is the people that work for you. When I say work for you, meaning they work for the company. As captive employees that actually in an agent capacity, and they're the ones who actually, day in, day out in the field, talking and generating business. And then you have your broker force, which is your independent broker agencies and FMOs and independent agents that are working directly through a contract agreement with the plan to serve and sell your products, amongst others. And so those are your typical three ones, and then they will be supported with a lot of different things, and how you plan your stuff, how you put your tactics together and stuff like that will be determining which distribution channel is going to have the hierarchy, which support you're going to give to which distribution channel model, and then those are the things that's going to benefit you. And then ultimately you want to make sure you have a percentage of targeting based on each one of those distribution channels. So your telesales is going to have a percentage of target goal. We don't refer to it as quota, but you can call it that. But that's based on the budget. So your budget has a component there. Then you have your field reps. So you have X amount of agents. They have a particular goal that is attainable, and then you add that up. So that has to figure into your budget, and that's exactly in your net numbers that you have to bring in so you can meet the target or exceed them. Then you have your broker, which basically it's a vaster, a larger group, and you would have to factor in that they're not going to be your employees. So there will be a little bit of a trickling effect. So it's more of a volume than an actual direct impact. So you cannot actually have targets and things like that for the brokers. So ultimately, what you would need to do is, have a percentage, of their, targets that is built in the budget, but do not concentrate your offers just on that. It's like the concept of having different eggs in different baskets. So that's really the concept. So different eggs, different baskets. So this way you have different things going on at the same time, different, distribution channels, working in parallel, and they're basically all funnel in, all contribute to the common goal. So that's kind of like, the concept. So again, budgets, prepping, things like that. You do SWOT analysis. Now you know what your strengths are. You know what your weaknesses are. You probably are working on those weaknesses as, you're planning, and to convert some of those weaknesses convert them to opportunities, and ultimately making them as strengths. Opportunities, what's available to you in the community and the company, and things like that. And then, of course, your competition is another component you want to look at. Who's your competitor, plan who you are. You're not really going after anyone, because competition is competition. People get to choose, but really which plan, has a certain, benefit, product, offering that is very hot and sexy, whatever the case may be. What's it in the marketplace? So you want to see how you stand there. And again, there's a head and a miss, because by the time you're in this particular part of the year, you would have already decided all these things a year before, literally by June of last year, and therefore you're pretty much stuck with whatever you have. So you would have done this exercise. And again, as we do this for the following year, or the next year rather, this is the time to really consider all these facts and put them in play, and look at all the different angles. Which benefits did not work, which worked, which did you capitalize on, which didn't capitalize. Sometimes you have a benefit you don't capitalize on. So what's the point? So you need to have everything in line. So before you actually start, and when the marketing guidelines, give you the green light to actually go, which usually is October 1st, of the year, you're launching. You have everything in place. You don't wait. If you pass that momentum, that's a window. It's like the shuttle. If there is a shuttle coming in from space and they miss the window of opportunity, bounce right back, poof. Not a good idea. So you want to be exactly where that point is. And when you hit that, magic number, which is October 1st, you have to have everything in place. Nothing is pending later. Contracts, everything has to be, already full gear. So that's again part of the strategy. So competition, you want to make sure that you know what you're doing, who's out there. Are you going to go after any particular plan? Does it matter? All these are considerations, are questions to have in place, and make sure that you have an analysis like which plans are which. So at least as you design your plans, you want to look at which plan can you possibly meet, in terms of benefits for the following year. Now, there are no guarantees that these plans will not actually come up to play again and just be excessively better in terms of benefits, but that could be you. You could be that plan. So at the end of the day, you're doing this exactly how I'm stated it, and it will actually work to a degree. And then what you have is what you have. Once the bids are submitted to CMS, this is the Medicare sales, and then once they're approved, sometimes end of August, that's it. You have a card, deck that you have dealt certain cards that you have to work with, and that's basically what you have to deal with. But you can adjust certain strategy to help navigate and maneuver around those things. So that's one of the elements that you have to look at. So again, SWOTs, you're doing all that. You're looking at your competition, you're looking at your benefit offering, and hopefully if you failed, to get the best offering the year before, because for whatever reason, budgets, sometimes, again, benefits are something, as I had explained before, it's not something that's just free. There's a cost to each benefit, and there is an admin percentage that is allocated through the whole operation of a health plan, as I explained in the MCO world. And from that percentage, there is certain, dollars that are allocated to a particular benefit. There are actuaries that have to get in place. There's assumptions that are actually done, things like that. There's a whole studies that get done around this time, and prior to the bid submissions, and all that stuff has to be factored in. And by end of April, early May, mid-May, you already have your final benefits that you submit in. First Monday in June, it's in, it's done. So now is the time to really work it. Look at all the different things. Look what CMS is allowing versus, there's a lot of stuff that's coming up, in that are approving, that CMS is approving today that they did not have before. So maybe those will be new things that you can add into your plan. But it doesn't matter. So if you put in the benefit design and you are leading it, or at least part of the leading team in this, and you want to be in there if you're in sales, because at the end of the day, that's you're going to be selling this stuff. Your teams are going to be selling this stuff. If you're not involved, it is not a good thing. You also want that you want to get all the feedback from every party that is interested in or will have some sort of an interest in this operation. So your members, so you do some sessions with some members, bring them in, talk to them, get their feedback. And this is, again, if you're looking at 2021, you want to start doing that now. So let's see what they want from plan. Existing members, sometimes you can do a community thing, what would you like to see from this plan, what benefits would you like to have, all this stuff. So members and consumers, if you watch this, it's a good time to reach out to your plans and kind of like see if you want to participate into these sessions and give your input based on your experiences, based on what you hear. You might like the plan, but you might not be happy about certain products, some certain benefits. This is a good time for you to have your input in there. Brokers, please share that. If you're managing and leading, sales, make sure that you have sessions with your brokers inside, brokers outside, your captives, get all that stuff. Then also look at your internal partners, your providers, the people that have a direct impact, with the sales piece, because they'll have direct things. For example, providers, they work with providers, which will be a channel for you. Your care management, because they're going to handle the care piece and some of the benefits will be impacting them directly. So again, put all these folks in there, get all the feedback, and then when you sit down, you look with your finance team and your actuaries, and you can figure out what will be the best, plan. And then you have to look at prioritizing. This is, level A benefit, we cannot live without it. This is level B, we can do with it and without it, depending on what I can, give in and give out. So it's really a balance. So you start playing until you get to that healthy, point, and it's going to be a fight. Everybody's going to fight you, especially we're in sales. We get, a lot of pushback sometimes because everybody feels that we want everything. We don't want everything. We just want to sell the products, and we want to be able to be competitive and have the edge and be able to be, really able to meet the demand and be marketable enough so people can join the plan. So that's all there is. And at the end of the day, that's the same mission for any plans. So if you're a CEO, you're a senior leadership team, you want your plan to be the best selling, and out there. Although this is the best, here, absolute statement does not apply. We're not talking about compliance and membership sales here. We're talking about strategy. But you do want to be top competitive product out in the market, and so therefore you have to put some measures in place to actually get there. And so sales will ask for things because they're pretty much the front line, and they will be the ones that are being asked to actually get with the goal, and their jobs are on the line every day, because if they don't deliver, there are ramifications to not delivering. So again, it is important to look at those angles, and then you build your momentum for the next year. Now, you add to it, you have to have all your channels in place. So those are your distribution channels. So now your staffing ratios. If you are budgeted for, let's say 10 captives and, maybe 100, brokers, and you have 10 telesales agents that are booked in your budget. Well, if you are missing any one of those, and every month that goes by, you're missing those numbers that are allocated to those particular agents. So if you're short staff and you don't have like some sort of vacancy factor built in, you will have your problems because you will be behind schedule just by default. You're already like missing, even if everybody's 100%, you're not 100% because you're actually like 10% to 20% short staffed. So that's the other thing. So you want to work with your HR department, recruiting has to be always in place. Recruiting has to be in place for a lot of reasons. People walk away, people, resign, people get terminated for performance, whatever it is, you always have to have a pipeline, running, in terms of recruiting. Also, same thing, if you're working with the brokers, you want to have some sort of a ongoing recruiting for agents, agencies, and different contracts that you need to have in place. And you want to have all these things way in advance from a regular season, but, every month has a target, so you want to meet that month's target. That means you have to have all the necessary pieces in place to get that month going. So that's important. So staffing is a key thing. And if you're short staffed, you will be behind the 8 ball no matter what you do, because you'll have your top performers. They're going to do 120, 130, 150% of goal. But if you're already short, they're not going to make up the difference, to catch up, with what you're missing. So you want to have the stuff in there. So if you're a manager, one of the main things I would advise you is, recruit. Constant recruiting is a key. Work with your, partner in the HR department. Have your, recruiting events, continue with that, because that is nonstop. And make sure that you have your training set, you have all the stuff in place, so you can get people in, roll them in, and make sure that you have a continuous, full staff, allocation that is in place. So again, because if you're missing that, that's a piece that you're going to go into the strategy, and you're missing something, and that's going to affect your overall picture. Now it's how you're going to do this. So you have your sales plan, and I say sales plan. This is actually the sales plan. It's got more than just the marketing plan. And depending on who you're talking to, some people say the marketing plan is the bigger one and the sales piece is a component. I would see the opposite, because you are actually going after sales and sales targets, and everything else is going to have to support that sales effort. So the marketing piece is going to be a component to support all these different distribution channels, at different times, with different techniques and tactics and strategies. All right. And so at the end of the day, so your budget, your staff and stuff, that's your sales. And then your marketing is what you do to actually, deliver the goods and have your sales, succeed. We're talking about the sales piece. Now, we identify our channels, we set our competition. We looked at our competition and everything. When you're also designing your staffing model, you also want to have a competitive, compensation model, because people don't just work for free. We all know that. Everybody works for money, for themselves, because that's really who you actually work for. And I said that in a different, talk show. But at the end of the day, if you're doing this and doing it right, you want to make sure that you actually have a competitive offering to these folks, with some sort of a retention, with some sort of a nicer, competitive commission structure, a nice startup base, based on obviously experience and things like that. But you want to have all that to be able to attract also talent. Not only attract talent, but also, retain the talent, because talent retention is big. And sometimes we fail, in retaining our top talent, because they just walk away to go to a competitor who offers them maybe a few dollars more. But at the end of the day, you want to have an actual structure that is very competitive, but also not just overly paying out, because you want to make sure that you don't compensate for mediocrity or low performance. So you have a tiered structure, and there's the whole. We can talk about how to structure commission, in the best formula that actually can drive the results and still keep everybody motivated to make a lot of money. We can do that maybe at a different session, but that's really the concept. So that's another component that you want to look at as you are building your strategy. So all these pieces will add up to the biggest item, or the bigger picture. So now we thought about all this stuff. We worked with the benefits. We got our feedback. We looked at our experience, all our opportunities that we made, our weaknesses. We're tackling all those things. Now we actually really in the trenches, and we want to have a successful next year. And while we're working about next year, we still have to make sure that we deliver this year. Ultimately, every day in sales is a day that you cannot make up, because if you miss it, you'll have to make it up. You lost it, you can't do it in about that day, but the next day now you have to double up, and so on and so forth. So your goals don't disappear because time goes away. So our goals in sales will always remain, and we have to go after them. Many factors, we may not get them, because again, if the strategy is not delivered, if the people that actually helping the strategy to drive, they don't do their piece, if people fail to deliver the things on a timely fashion when they are due, doesn't matter what model sales, the best salespeople, leadership can tell you, you will not succeed, because there's nothing. It's not about sales or sales leadership and what we want. It's about whether we can deliver the goods to get that sales strategy to the next level or not. And when we fail in sales, that means everybody else failed, because really the other folks that are supposed to support the sales, entity did not, do their part. And that's what it is. Again, team, and it's just a lot more, components that get from, not succeeding to succeeding. And so it is important to work with everybody, and everybody in particular, sales in the corporate structure need to understand that the heartbeat is your sales department. If you want business and you want to grow, they're going to do it. But to do it, there's deliverables that everybody has to meet. So if your HR does not help you recruit, and you're always short staffed, that's a problem. If you can't get your marketing up and running in the time you need it, that's a problem. If you can't get your telecom, working properly, and your telesales are failing because you're not getting the best thing on the phone, that's a problem. So, if your, logistics, are not working. So let's say you have a mobile unit, fleet that is not working properly, that's a problem because you cannot deliver. If you cannot have your provider relations working with your providers, getting you opening the doors to get you in front of these doctors and pharmacies to get you, and get the action, that's a problem. If you have a community, team or events team that is not, delivering events where the sales team can go, it's a problem. So all these have to happen, in tandem. Again, pieces of the puzzle. If they all fall in place and everything is actually in synchrony, and in sync, you will get the results. If they fail, chances are you will fail. As an entity, as an enterprise, as a company, it will fail. Doesn't matter. I can tell you this. My experience, I've done it all, and I've seen it succeed and I've seen it fail. And while I can say I can blame me or my team, I can tell you it does not work when we just do it by ourselves. It works when everybody buys into the actual concept. Everybody has to chime in. Everybody has to work together to get you to there. And then, ultimately, when we lose, everybody lost. And yes, you can put the blame on any one of us. We didn't deliver. It doesn't work that way, because if no matter what we put, if a plan is there but we don't execute on it from A to Z, we're not going to get success. So that's an important piece, and I want to send this message because it is important. So if you're planning, if you're thinking, if you're strategizing, if you're putting tactics in place, you have to look at these things. This is what will make you or break you. You don't do it right, it's over. You will be struggling. You will be behind every day. You will be like waking up and not really happy. And in sales, we want to get up there and just pound and make it happen. But we can't. Even the staffing, the folks, we're going to put too much pressure on people to bring in numbers, but they're not going to be able to do it. People are not satisfied. The benefits suck. The actual network is not in place. Doctors are dropping like flies, from the network. Pharmacists not cooperating. They're not happy with reimbursements and claims, blah, blah, blah. The RVs don't show up on time. The events are not there. Too much red tape in our own bureaucracy internally. Those things all affect us that can make you or break you. So if you work in tandem, everybody's working good, and we have all these things, and everybody's following this lead here, as this is the plan, what we're going with, you want to succeed, let's do it, let's execute, we'll get there. No matter what, and you don't want to scramble every last minute because you want to be in prep before, and you do not make strategic decisions, without, kind of taking the input from the sales force that is going to be actually executed, and then come back later and ask them, what's going on, because there's nothing we can do. Once we're in the trenches, it's game time. It's like Super Bowl. You get people to Super Bowl, they're in there, the coaches out there, the managers watching, but there's nothing. It's that game that those players are doing, and they have the time frame, they got to get it done, or they're going to fail it. That's it. So you can make a couple of moves, you can do timeouts, you can do stuff, but it's all play. It's already, the play's up, right? Same concept in sales. We're about a game. We are playing out there. When you're in the field, you're there. It's game time. All right. So again, that's kind of like, where the sales piece, comes in, and the strategy and the vision, targets are set, and sometimes that's the other thing. Targets are set for us. We don't even know why and how. Somebody decides that these are the sales targets. I get it. They have, maybe the board has a decision. They want to meet a certain number, and for financial reasons, whatever the case, they set it up. That's great. But we need some sort of a communication to see whether it's a feasible goal or not a feasible goal, because if the goal is so high and we have to actually increase our goals for the reps, that also can drop, for example, a potential of non-compliance, because people will do whatever it takes to actually get their numbers, right? We don't want that. We want to be able to also make sure that if we have a set goal, but our network is actually weak, we might not be able to deliver or the network is not open to cooperate and partner with us as a team in the sales force. May not work. So again, these are things. So if you're on a board, you're an executive, you got to consider all these things. If you're a director, you're a VP or chief of sales, you need to make sure that you exchange this information and you share this, verbally to your team, and make sure that you actually get the results from them, because you want to get that agreement that it's going to happen, right? So again, just a little advice, so it's, again, this is strategy, and as you put it, again, it's chess. 10 moves ahead, you have to be ahead of them. Okay, while you're not playing against somebody directly here, you're playing against a lot of things, a lot of factors, and you want to be able to actually deliver despite all these things, and you want to have a successful run. But to do that, you need to have these things. And by the way, a lot of stuff I'm talking about here, it's related to the Medicare sales, or government sales in the healthcare, industry. But a lot of this thing, the stuff I'm talking will apply to any type of sales strategy. You still need to plan your budget, your staffing model, your marketing, all the stuff, the cooperation, the recruiting, all that stuff has to be in place. Your marketing plan, your dollars, all the stuff. The goals have to be strategic. How many targets are you in a competitive model? All those things have to be in place. So what doesn't matter what industry, what sales group you fall in, what product line you're actually selling or service, these will apply. So again, continuing. So now, assuming we have everything, we have a product, for next year, it looks good. We think we're going to be good competition. We think we have our, HR working with us, and we have our staff in, and we're good. We actually, 100% with staff. We have even people on the pipeline on waiting list in case somebody decides to leave the company. So that's great. Now we have our cooperation with our events, and that's the other thing. If you have an event unit, typically, if it's not under the sales division or the sales and marketing unit, the idea is that the cooperation has to happen, and then when that happens, that has to deliver enough events that will generate enough opportunity for the sales force to meet and talk to different beneficiaries, hopefully, and share with them what great benefits they may have, and ultimately, the more you actually, it's a number game, right? The more people you're in front of, the more the odds, of you closing more, numbers will happen. It's simple, right? So you'll help more people at the end of the day. But you want to make sure that, so if that unit is not cooperating, that unit is not really supporting, they're not generating enough activities where the sales force will be there, the salespeople will be scrambling a lot more. Now, we talked about sales, they're doing a lot of stuff on their own and working directly through the SMART, and I just posted an actual SMART objectives, presentation. So if you get a chance, go to the Hurricane H YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see it. It's a small presentation, but if you look at that, if you're a salesperson, that's going to help you. If you're a leader, I also put a presentation about leadership, and it's lead to succeed, so look it up, and all those things together can help, the force that is out there. So if you're an agent or you're an actual manager that's leading a team, those will help you get there. But this is beyond you guys. This is where the sales team, the sales leadership, and the actual corporation leadership, enterprise leadership has to come and play and work together and make sure that it's done. So structurally, ideally, yes, the ideal is that you want all the logistical, help that's going to help, sales need to be under the sales, helm. And I've tried both. I was in areas where I had those departments reporting to me personally, and it worked better because you have full control of all the stuff, and you were able to make the moves together. Everybody worked together in harmony, and you did not have to reach out the other side and then work on their pace. So your pace is different. But sometimes in other companies you have to do that, and you have to cooperate and partner, and that's okay. If you do that, you just need to make sure that they also buy into the concept, and the leadership has to see that and make sure that they send that message clear. We need to support these folks, otherwise we will fail. And that's the key. And if they do a good job, you should be. But the idea is they need to generate enough activity, enough contact. Because otherwise you're basically locked down. You cannot do things. You cannot open doors. You cannot go here. If you can't go to a business, you cannot go to a church. You're going to go this. You're not going to do anything, right? So it ties your hands. It ties your abilities to do much. So therefore, you're not going to do. And you're just waiting for business to happen. Nothing's going to happen. We're salespeople. You need to always generate, business. As we talked in Sales World, I think the first chapter, the first episode, we talked about how you have to prep, how to develop prospecting and canvassing. Well, you can't prospect and canvas if you have, for example, a unit that is doing that, but they're not allowing you to do it. So that's kind of like, contradicting the effort here, and it becomes a very difficult way to do business. So again, these are things to learn from, things to consider. It doesn't matter what level you are. These are things that you can have in the back of your mind, and as you sit in a meeting with your management, in sales, or if you're our sales leader, at the highest level of decision making or mid decision making, you want to convey the message, and then everybody else has to buy into the same concept. Hopefully the results will be good for everyone. Now so now we're talking about, you have all the sales strategy. Now we're talking about how to do. So you have your grassroots, that you need to put together. And the grassroots is basically all your, it's like, think about a regular pizza pie, right? And you have different slices. Each one of them will contribute to a certain percentage of your overall, growth and sales. So you have your mobile units, for example, and, so that's your deployed, units. So your RVs, your tabletops, that's it. And then you have your events, marketing and community engagement piece. You want a piece of that. You want your providers and working directly with the healthcare, facilities and providers in the network. You want your pharmacies, right? You want the CBOs working and engaging with community-based organizations out there. So that could be anybody. You want your senior centers, as another slice. You want your FBOs, or faith-based organizations. So that's your churches, your temples, your synagogues, your mosques, all those. You want to be able to work with them. You want your elected officials. So if there is a department that does, the legal piece, or, legal affairs, whatever, you want to make sure that regulatory affairs, whatever those departments, they have different, names, you want to work with them to actually facilitate the access points, so you can work with these elected officials and provide different events to the community and activities, things like that. And then it runs out to the engagement, to community engagement, or to the events department, and then ultimately you are invited to do these activities. So those are your grassroots. And and you have your business to business. So those will be any other opportunity that's out there that you can work. So businesses out there are just like we talked about malls, we talked about supermarkets. People are everywhere, right? So you can be actually everywhere talking to people and engaging with them and doing activities with them. But you can't do it unless you have the ability to do it. And those are the things that you have to work them specifically. So those are all your different things. In the provider itself, you want to work with your primaries. You want to with dentists, network. You maybe a vision network, so your optometries. You want to have some activities there. If you have, for example, in most of the cities, you have a VA component. So in our world, we can work with the VAs. So you want to approach the VA as an opportunity. So even within the provider, realm, you have different pieces that you can work with, and each one of them will. So if you look at the SMART objectives, you can use each one of them. You have to have specific, and measurable, actionable stuff that you actually, use, and result driven, and of course time bound. So that's your SMART. And then basically, if you did that, you should be able to get your results exactly what it is. And so, in addition to that, now, that's your grassroots. So that's your street activity, or we'll call it guerrilla marketing in our world. And that's really out there, just being out there day in, day out, working. And the reps will basically engage in all these opportunities. But as a company, as a sales leadership, as a company leadership, we want to support the sales force to do what they have to do and to get us the results. Now, that's for the captives, and equally for the brokers. Now, with the captives, the difference, again, they are employees, and therefore they have no other plan that they sell. They only sell you. Therefore, you have to give them all the resources to succeed. And you also set a goal for them that they have to meet. So you want to help them. With the brokers, there is no goal, there is an expectation, and but you still have to help them. And if you don't help them, they're going to go to a plan that's going to help them. It's very simple. It's not rocket science. They're going to go where somebody is going to give them the tools to help and to work with. And so if you want to strategize, clearly you want to do things for these brokers as well. Now, we pay usually a direct, admin fee to our broker FMOs, or field marketing organizations, and they're supposed to do some of that stuff. That's great. They can do it. But you do also want to budget for some of that to actually help directly your agents that are not really captives and your agencies to support them. The more you do of that, the more they're going to be loyal to you, the more they're going to drive business to you. Now, providing you have a competitive product, and otherwise, you're not going to win, because they're going to have 5, 10, portfolio products in front of them. And as we said with the consumers, we want to, in the broker world, you want to make sure that you sell the product that meets the needs of these people. When we talk to also sales, needs assessment. If the product is not for them, it's not going to work. So ultimately, you want to have that. So by providing you have that component, and if you're in a plan that has the good benefits, then and basically you want to support your forces, and you want to make sure you help them succeed. And to do that, you have to do it right by giving them, again, similar access. So you can give them time with the deployment assets such as the RVs. You want to give them time at events and schedule events for them. You want to have somebody that's dedicated to help them and support them. You want to have a hotline just for them, things like that. You can even set up a telesales component, not for their agents to actually come in and do some call time and things like that, and do some campaigning. You can do campaigns with them and help them out. But so similarly to what you do with your captives, you would do for them. Now, another piece is you want to obviously, have a lot of action with your telesales. Now we talk about captives and brokers, but telesales is the easier, or the low-hanging fruit. You have people that sit on the phone. You just want to make sure the phones ring. Now, ultimately, these folks have their limitations. They cannot call. They cannot unsolicited call in, or just do random calls. They have to get calls in. So we need to generate phone calls for them. And so first we have to make sure that the IVRs are good and there is no bouncing to the member relations and things like that. We want the IVRs and a dedicated number that calls in right there. That's the first thing. Any material that you have, giveaways, pens, whatever, you need to have a number and that goes right into that phone line. Make sure the scripts are correct and they do it correctly, so this way they don't waste time, for other measures. And that's the key. But so now to support them, and ultimately sometimes to even support the rest of the team if there's an overflow. Now you're talking about your mainstream, marketing, campaigning, and marketing, strategy. So we have the grassroots and we have the actual regular marketing, which will be everything else from your print ads, from your media, so that's TV, radio ads, whatever, billboards, your digital, your social media, so basically Facebook and all the good stuff, and those things that you can do. Then you have to also have your direct mail. Big time direct mail. In the AEP annual election period, typically in between October 1st all the way to like December 7th, everybody gets crazy mails and a lot of mail pieces to their homes promoting their products and services. So, but you don't want to wait until the middle of November to send all these things. It's too late, right? You want to be like October 1st, you're already out. You want to have all the stuff ready, and you want to have also ongoing stuff for the telesales to keep ringing. Otherwise, nobody's going to call the hotlines. If people don't call, you have agents idling, sitting in front of a screen that, and there are no calls. You want to support them. And usually someone's calling in, again, it's 50% of the job is already done. They're pretty much, interested. They need the information, and these guys are good. They will be able to close more and do a good job. But, again, that's the other thing. You want to motivate them to, similarly with your captives, you want to do a better competitive, compensation package for them. But at the end of the day, you want to support them. So your direct marketing, is going to help. So all radio advertising works, so spots, commercials, great. TV advertising is a little bit more expensive. It may not be the best venue or opportunity, but certainly if there is a budget that you can put in for it, you should do that. Your billboards, they work depending, so you have your bus shelters, you have phone booths, you have different things. You have to look at, maybe some screens in different places and malls and things like that. There's a lot of ways to do marketing creatively, and sometimes you partner with other things. If you have providers, you want to work with your providers, and that's the other thing. When you work with your provider strategy in the grassroots and working directly with them in your slice, as in one slice from the big pie, you want to also work with them to see what you can do with the providers internally. So you can have billboards inside, in some of the provider settings. You can have some materials in some settings. You can have some maybe loops, of your commercial in their TVs while people are waiting. There's ways and creative ways you can work with them. But that's all the different things you can actually do to succeed, in terms of your sales strategy. So in the interest of time, we're coming up to the end of this 45-minute show. But at the end of the day, so that's a lot of stuff that I try to, really cram in little time, but that's kind of like what the bigger picture, things that you have to look at and the different things to consider and to be aware of, and at any level, from in the board to the rep, you can see what this is, and how it goes and everybody's contribution. And if everybody does their piece together, everybody works exactly, in harmony and working as a unit, as a team, all these things can play, in a good way and certainly deliver the results. Ultimately, everybody's happy, the board is happy, the president is happy, the senior leadership are happy, the members are happy, the brokers are happy, everybody's doing good, and then you move on to next year and you build, and then you always have to be innovative and look at opportunities and creative, and everything is an opportunity. Everything. If you're out there, you're marketing, it's an opportunity. You see something, you bring it back. You see a billboard, something you like, a messenger, whatever, you bring it back and then you discuss it. We'd like to do this. Now, you're not going to get everything. Again, it's all based on budgets, but you can certainly make the best of things as you can. So that being said, we're coming up to the end of the show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And, we'll catch up on the next one. Stay safe out there. And hopefully, everybody will be, getting some positive, educational components from this particular show and all the other ones, or all the other things that I'm putting on the YouTube, and also on the website. So with that being said, feel free to send in your suggestions, and I'll be more than happy to connect and discuss with you guys. That being said, have a great night, and we'll talk again at the next show. Bye now.